that one's going. That one's going. Okay, we're calling North Whidbey Park Recreation District special meeting the 27th of April to discuss our budget. And that's all we're going to discuss tonight is the budget. And anyway, I would like to get started. Executive Director.
You have to say the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. The time is 06:35.
It's 18.
18.
6:35.
6:30 p.m.
Anybody have a nuclear clock here?
Yeah, there's one straight ahead of me. I'm sorry.
We're in the military time.
Yeah, is it especially 6 in the morning? No, that don't work. Anyway, 6:30 in the afternoon, 27th of April, and Mr. McCaslin, if you would please start with the budget presentation.
All right. So thanks for all coming out on a special night, on Wednesday night. So what this is, the purpose of this is to do a review of Q1 Y16. So it's just the first quarter of 2016. So what I'm going to do is run through the presentation to you guys. I'm going to ask that all questions be held until I'm done, so I can run through it. It'll help make things go a little bit quicker, but we'll still have time, give us time to also do a thorough review and ask the questions that you have in there. So some things that I want you to keep in mind as we go into this. The temptation is going to be to think we're a quarter way through the year, 25% is the number. That's not the case. There are some things that you'll see are going to be right around 25%. Some things are seasonal. Some things are on a scheduled basis. Some things are a one-time-a-year thing. So when you see one of those, which I'm not sure you see one this time, but next quarter you see one that's, oh, I'm already at 100% on this, or something like that, because it's a one-time thing. So keep in mind that it's not linear. Most of these things aren't linear. Some are. Those that are easy to review. Those that aren't, are there. Or we're going to give you our assessment of it. And that's one of the reasons you'll see green in some places where you're like, they're calling that green. These numbers are based on the 2016 approved budget. So those are that's the marker right now. There will be a mid-year budget revision, which will adjust some things, but for right now, that's what we're using. The colors. There is no defined metric for these colors because I can't do a defined metric across everything because not everything measures the same way. But what the colors represent are the level of concern and urgency that the staff has on it. So when you see green, that means we feel it's tracking about where it should track. Or it's okay to us that it's there at that point. Yellow, there's a concern, but it's either trending the correct way or it's we've got something in place to correct it. Red, it's obvious of concern. It doesn't mean that it's a deal breaker or anything like that. It just means that right now it's got a high concern. We're looking at it because it's a little bit out from where we need it to be. So what I'm going to do first is go through the revenue side of it. So that'll be basically the first two pages, first one and third pages there. Right now, you'll see Q1 has us at about 10% of the yearly revenue as a whole. So the main factor that it's down there, and it's not any higher than that, is the levy. The levy comes in not on they don't take our levy that we're granted and give it to us in 12 equal shares. So it doesn't happen that way. It's distributed based on when taxes are paid. So that's when we get the money. So that's why what you see up there in the levy, although I have it as green, it's about 3%. But 3%, the levy money is really about the only predictable income that we have, the one that we can really count on. So I'm not concerned that it's down that low right now. We as a staff aren't. We know it's coming. It comes every month. It's just how often it comes, or how much that comes with it. Historically, the biggest levy distributions come in at the end of April and May, and then again in October. We get something every month, but those are historically when the big chunks hit. So we'll be able to hopefully well, we can't really, but we're trying to plan better around that so that next year we don't find ourselves in the situation we did this year. The remainder of the revenue is what we call just programmatic revenue. It's basically non-levy revenue, and it could be pool revenue or outside of the pool revenue. We have other stuff that comes in there. That revenue is less predictable for us, so it's hard. That's a harder one to gauge. What you don't see in there, and that's just the way QuickBooks is, but I want to give you something. Because when you look at it right now, you think, oh man, you're way off on that. What you don't see on there is we've actually brought in, if you add it all up, about $87,000 in revenue of programmatic revenue against about a 456, I'm rounding here, 456K target for the year, which is just under 20%. So I'm just under 20% on a revenue that a lot of our revenue is seasonally based. We're not considering that a major issue at the moment. And at the end of this, I'll share with you if the levy revenue had been delivered to us equal chunks by month, then it actually would be even better number. But I'll come to that at the end down there. So on your sheet you have there, I also did something else this time. And again, it has to be manipulated this way after it comes out. We added 3 columns to it. So the first column you'll see is a number. That's just a line item number, and that allows us to reference stuff a little bit quicker than trying to go, on 350.00, it's easier to go line item 35 or whatever, get you there quicker. Next, the column next to it are the cross-reference ones. So as best we could, those are the corresponding line items on the expense side, or on the expense side back to the revenue side, that those two correlate with. So hopefully that makes some sense. And then the next column that we added was the status column on the end. And again, that's just our view of where our level of concern and urgency is on it. So with that said, as we start looking at the revenue, some things to keep in mind. There was a price increase voted in last October. And when we set the 2016 revenue and expense projections for the year, we stated then we had no way to know what impact that was going to have on us, near term, long term, midterm. So all of the projections we did were based on a static, everything maintains. We just plugged in the price increases, and that's what we came to. We knew there would be impact, but it was just something we can't predict. We can't predict how people are going to do that. So we chose to stay with the same numbers. Also at the budget approval meeting, we did also say, we knew that sometime this year we were going to have to do a budget revision, and we have one planned for midway through the year. So when you start looking down here, and we go to about line 12, and you start looking at daily admissions down there. Well, daily admissions are down, and right now, that could be in part to the price increase, since a lot of people made a run on us, and that also plays into the passes and the punch cards, why they're down. In December, whenever people knew the prices were going up, there was a big run on them, and so a lot of people bought them then at the price. So right now, what we see is it's down, and it's something that concerns us. As some of those punch cards start to run out, we should start seeing an uptick in that, as they have to now pay the current price for it. So we're keeping an eye on it. It is of concern to us, but we're watching it as an individual line item there. On the other hand, when you look at the Red Cross classes, right now we're at, that's line 16, we're over 30%, or almost 32% of where we thought we'd be right now. And that's really attributable to the babysitting class that we did there. But we're tracking pretty good. And the ARC classes are lifeguard classes, first aid, CPR, and then the new babysitting course that we do. But the inaugural babysitting course had how many people? 6? 7. So it was a good class. So 7 new babysitters out there for those of you that have kids that need a babysitter. That's none. I guess it doesn't really matter. The next one, line 17, aerobics. This one is a real big concern to us, and we're looking at it as staff. as a staff rather. And we're going to look at it next week real hard and do stuff. And then I'm going to engage the program review committee on that one to have a discussion, because we need to figure out what aerobics is really doing. It's pretty well attended, but when you look at this stuff here, there are a lot of reasons, and it's not the purpose of this meeting to go into those. Some of that's already, there's a little bit of it in the notes that I gave you, but it's something that's going to take more of a review. So I would, for Commissioner Holly and Commissioner Shingleton, will be probably sometime here in May before you leave, hopefully sitting down and doing a review after the staff has done that. Swim lessons on line 22 right now. Swim lessons are somewhat seasonal as well. While we're just about, it's normally a slower time of the year, we're about 21% or so. The attendance, what's really worth noting is January's attendance and March's attendance, it's a 60% increase in the number. And a lot of these are new kids. This isn't like, oh, well, I took January off and February off and I'm coming back in. A lot of them are new kids, which we attribute directly to a large part to Erica's water safety presentations that she's been going around to the elementary schools, because she hands them out an information package and now they know, oh, swim lessons and all this stuff here and everything. And a lot of those kids, it's really, I went with her to one of them, and it's amazing how many people didn't even know there was a pool here. Still. So, and then you hit it again here this next month. In May, we hit it again.
I have one school in May and one school in June.
Okay, so we're hitting them again, so hopefully that'll set us up for some summer stuff, or at least in the fall. So when you look at that, that rounds out what the P&L lists as JV&P revenue, which is basically the pool stuff. We have it yellow at about 19%, but really the culprit here are the passes and the punch cards. So what we're hoping is as these punch cards start running out, that this picks back up again. Plus, you know, the new people that come in from the Navy. I know we're not expecting a big flood of them this year, but as that starts to change, we'll get some more in there. We'll see more. So at the end of Q1, programmatic revenue is just under 20%. And while the total revenue is 10%, again, that's due mainly to the levy out there. So this is what I was going to talk to. If the levy was distributed evenly right now, we would have had, it would be about 48,000. I'm rounding, but it's about 48,000 a month is what we would get if it was distributed evenly. And we would be, obviously, we would be at 25% on the levy, because it would come that way, versus the budget projection. And when you add in the non-levy revenue, then we would be sitting right now at about 23% of revenue year to date. And on a seasonal basis, that would be about right for a slow January, February, and start to pick up in March, getting ready to ramp up in May, June, July, and August. So that's not something I can really put in here, because I do not, other than adding columns, and boxing around things to make them easier to see, I did not alter any of the data in there. It was all, that's the data, I just put it into a spreadsheet, that's all I did. So, I'm going to move on to the expenses side of it right now. If you go to the end at line 226, 227, you see that right now, overall, we're really only at about 20% year to date on projected expenses at the end of Q1, which is actually pretty good. We implemented really tight expense controls once we saw things were not exactly what we thought they were at the beginning of the year. And Erica and Julie in particular, in their departments, have really proactively worked on helping cut expenses in their departments, and it's paid off tremendously so far, of course. The reserves, when you look at the reserves number, that's line 70. I have that at red. Not the way it would normally look is that would be red as if we would have gone past it. But again, it doesn't fit that way. Why I have the reserves red right now, opposite of what one would expect, is it's a combination right now that we've used it twice this year. We need to put money back into it, And really, at a minimum, we need to be at about 3 months of our run rate here in the district, at a minimum in the reserve. We want to get higher, but that's where we're trying to go. So it'll probably stay red most of the time throughout the year until we start doing stuff, putting some money back into it once the big distributions come to us, and maybe we move it to yellow. I don't know that I'll ever put it green until we reach the point where we've got the minimum of 3 months in there. But anyway, there's a plan for that. When you take a look at salaries and wages, the next thing right there, overall in there, we're tracking pretty close, about 24, just under 25% of it. We do have in the Director of Client Services area, the aberration in there is that at 48% of the budget. And in truth, when we did this budget, we knew we were not giving enough hours especially for Joanne and Julie to do what they have to do. They're working, they're doing their best to do it. But that'll be revisited in the mid-year revision. One of the things that we are going to do that'll make the number more accurate is there are times when Julie takes a shift up front. Actually, she does it more than just times. There are a lot of times when she takes a shift up front, and we need to move that in the next quarterly review. That'll be moved into the line item 77, which are the client service specialists. Because although she gets paid the same regardless of what she's doing, it needs to be accurately reflected that she's doing that job and not doing the other job. So that, it would still be high, but it would not be that high right now. The next one that we have is the lifeguard training instructor. This was the class in January that actually went longer than, or not longer, but took more hours.
It went a little bit longer than
Yeah,
it was.
than it needed to go, or was scheduled to go. It needed to go, but it wasn't scheduled for that right there. But Erica now, this last class, you taught about 95% of it, other than some help in the water, the academic part. That won't always be able to be done, but but she will have some part of the classes, and that'll help reduce the amount of the hourly instructors that will be in there. So we're watching that, and we're trying to make sure we keep that down where we need to. If you move to line 153, you'll see meat fees paid to clubs. Get up at about 75% right now. Again, just as a reminder, that's a pass-through. In reality, that's a pass-through because we pay it, and then the NWAC families pay us. So that also makes on line 155, it makes the swim team. Yeah, it makes the swim team look like its expenses are over at about 35%. But again, that's due to the pass-through right now. And again, those are pass-throughs on that. And it would bring, if that was not the case, it would bring it back down for us to closer to where it needs to be. On line 169, we have the IT service contract. Now, that should have been 25%, but what happened was, with these guys, we pay a month in advance. But what we didn't get was we didn't get the January bill in December. It came in January. I think Rick was out of town. So it looks like we're ahead on something that should be a linear track for the year. So the bill didn't get to us, so it'll be slightly adjusted a little bit, but that's the reason that was out of whack right there. The line 180, the HVAC and the basically this is the Barron heating contract we have. That, in all honesty, was whenever I looked at that, I saw, oh, 625, and I thought it was yearly when it went into the budget. It wasn't, it was quarterly. Turns out there were two contracts that we had with them. One contract does the boiler and the AC in the normal part of the building, and the other contract, which is really small, does the the temperature in the pool area plus the dehumidification that goes on in the pool area. So what we've had them do, we've had them combine the contracts into one, and so now it's going to be about $800 a quarter on top, aside from any visits they have to do and come out and do maintenance or calls that we bring them up for. So that'll be adjusted in the mid-year revision. So again, that was an error that I made, and I'm gonna have to fix it. When you look down at line 197, the boiler, as was asked, and we have been keeping track of the cost difference from year to year with the 1% increase. And although that's not the focus of tonight's meeting, the bottom line is when you take the 6 months and you add the increase from this year over last year and you divide it by 6, it comes to about 1,012, which was about the estimate that we were told it would be about $1,000 a month. So what I'm going to do, and this will come tomorrow night, but what I'm going to do tomorrow night is say we'd like to just watch it for a year. We need to see it for a year because a 6 month is, I don't think, a long enough snapshot in time to really make the evaluation that that's the right estimate for the increase in the price. So. But we will have to adjust that in the mid-year. And then you look at 200 and 202. Those are the patron water and the spa boiler. Those are an enigma to us right now. Why that did that? Because there should be no reason. Patron water, yeah, okay. So maybe there's a little bit more use, maybe in there. We're looking at there was a rate increase in there from 1.09 to 1.14, which accounted for some of it. And even though we're still 10% less than where we were this time last year on it, it's still a concern to us. And we're going. Joanne and I are heading over to city tomorrow to talk to them about this. What's really going on? Why these numbers are? Because when you look at the usages, we paid more 1 month for less usage than we did another month, which we paid less for. So we hope there's something screwed up on their side, but we're going to go find out tomorrow and sit with them and say, what's happening here? So next line, 203, which is the total utilities. Right now, we're watching it, the contributors to it, like we just talked about, the boiler, the HVAC, and those things right there. And again, in the mid-year, we will adjust to what we think is more accurately going to be our number for the year. So when you look at it, expenses then, down there at line 220, if you look at line 227, expenses are tracking pretty nicely at the moment. Overall, they're tracking at about 20% year to date at the end of Q1. So that's actually a good. The next two lines, they're yellow. They're yellow because they're so far out, but that's the levy. If the levy income was in there, those numbers would be way, way more in line with what one would expect to see at this time of year. So overall, while there are some areas in there that we are really going to keep an eye on and address and monitor very closely, overall, when you adjust everything for the seasonality and you take a look at what the real picture is, like I told you, the 87,000, where revenue is really, there's no line item for it to show that the revenue's at about just under 20% non-levy revenue, which is only at 3%. It's actually overall, it's not as bleak as one might gather looking at a spreadsheet. So, with that said, that's what I wanted to deliver to you, is what we consider to be the state of things, and we are open for questions.
Okay, one thing I may add real quick that I did not do, all commissioners are present for this meeting. I forgot to announce that, believe it or not.
And I forgot to remind you.
Exactly, it was like... Anyway, questions, Commissioner Shingleton?
Can we just go through this? That might be an easier way than every person doing it individually.
However we would like to do it.
Start on
Well, I
the
only
first
have a
page.
couple,
Right.
about 3 different questions on this.
Okay.
So,
So do you have a question on the first page?
Okay,
I do. The running club dues, are we going to, will we just delete that at the 6-month review, and then do you already have a plan for how to make up? Because I noticed there was supposed to be revenue from the running club, so are you gonna just cut costs or increase revenue somewhere else, you think? Or
We'll have to look at that, but it'll be one of those two options. As I said in the thing, well, obviously, it's one of those two options. There won't be one this year because of that, because of Brad's personal issues with his father. So we'll look at it again for next year, so it'll just have to be adjusted out at the mid-year revision.
Hasn't the running club, in the last couple of 3 years, looked like to me, the running club's actually run a deficit.
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
but we had talked about this, and there were ways that we were gonna run, it was gonna be run to try and either not go with it if it wasn't gonna be running a
Right.
profit, or it would run a profit.
Right.
Okay.
So I actually had high hopes for it.
And it'll be revisited next year. Hopefully we'll have all this stuff squared away.
okay,
I guess oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
let's
Okay.
report then.
Okay, well, I actually got, let's see, I want to start at the top with the levies. So we budgeted $592,089 for the levy, well, including the timber harvest, $592,000 for the year, which seems a little high to me. Last year, we received $581,13, and I believe he was telling me that $13,100 of that was actually, we shouldn't have received, so it should have been $567,913, is that correct?
If those
Yeah.
numbers add to
Okay,
that.
yep, I've added them up. So 567,913, and we add 1%, we always do that per year, so that would take us back up to 573,392, correct? I've already done the math.
It's a little higher, but yeah.
1% was 5,679 of 567, so it comes out to 573,392. But we owe 65,000 or 6,500 this year on the half that we have to start paying back of that 13,100, whatever it was we received. So subtract that, we come out with 567.92. That's about $25,000 less than 592 or 592. So somewhere along the line, I think we need to probably start thinking we're not going to get the levy that we budgeted, and that goes back to what I brought up before. We should really base the levy sort of what we got on last year plus maybe 1%, but not what we. I don't know where this 592 came from. To tell you
It
the truth.
was based on a calculation from last year's submission for it, and then.
Which was
Then they
really
didn't,
high.
they didn't realize last year's because it was an error in the calculation. And then they found, so that's, remember I said, we did not receive 19,000 of what we thought we were gonna receive last year?
Well, because I think you kind of overestimated it last year. You had it like at 599 last year, which is just ridiculous.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You're right.
There was an error in the calculation last year for the 15 budget.
Yes.
And then, so they didn't realize 19,000 of what they thought they were gonna realize. And then there was the 13,000 that was overpaid because of the error in the calculation. The real number this year, and I already have it in writing from county, is 574.5 or something like that.
After paying back that 65?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so
Yes.
574, so,
Yes.
okay,
And that'll be updated in the mid-year revision,
great, thanks. So it's
Yep.
gonna be 574.5,
roughly.
that's good. So we should basically make it that then.
Yes. Well, I can't change it yet until it's approved by the board.
Right.
So,
You know, I guess we got some 28,000 reserves, we can take some of that and put towards that. The other thing is on the insurance.
Okay,
Can you?
all right, we're on sheet one. Let's stay
Okay,
there.
okay.
Well, you're next.
Go right ahead.
The running club here. And instead of just seeing an 8-month low there and seeing that $2,500 of estimated profit lost. If you look around town at the, at the football leagues or the softball or baseball or soccer, basketball, et cetera, those are all ran with volunteers, volunteer coaches, volunteer instructors, et cetera. Is there a possibility of maybe making that $2,500 in profit up with some type of pilot program that's maybe ran that way?
Is it with volunteers?
Yeah, and I know that's tougher in the pool, but maybe softball or kickball.
Well, that's actually,
or whatever.
that's easier than the pool, probably.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
We can look into it, and I'd welcome any help on that.
Yeah.
If from what your perception, because I'm not involved in the little league
Exactly.
sports
Yeah.
around here, but could we do that if we could find people that wanted to do it?
Well, I
Yes.
know, for instance, we have the 2 ball fields out there at Clover Valley, and I know one of them's leased out, but it's not occupied all the time. And my thought there is, Little League ends in a couple weeks. There's 550 kids that play baseball in town. Little League ends in a few weeks, except for all but maybe 50 of them that make all-star teams.
Mhm.
Everybody else is twiddling their thumbs all summer. It might be that something's there,
Okay, let's stay with the budget.
Yep.
'Cause that's more of an
Yeah, the
item
actual
for tomorrow than tonight.
correction though on that profit, the profit would have really been less than $500
Yes.
based on the fact
That's
that,
true.
the
The revenue
coaching
would have been
coaching
2,500,
fees.
but
Yep, that's true, yes.
yeah. But yes, that can be looked into.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I had
Yep.
there.
Commissioner Sinclair.
My question was on 28 and 29, which we know to be pass-throughs to 153 and 152 respectively. Do we know why those numbers don't match?
I'm sorry, what was,
Why they don't match? So one is $4,460.80 and the expense is $45.19. And then the other one is off by
240.
Well, the other one's off by $104.
Are we talking about?
28, 29, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, yes.
I'm going to defer to Ms. Moran on that. Yes.
So the meat fees are always gonna be off a little bit, it's just a difference in the time they're billed out and the time they receive payment. At the end of the year, ideally, they would be an exact match, but because you have meets that may occur in December and we don't collect payment till January, seeing it be an exact match on a P&L is not terribly likely, just because of that variation in when it's billed versus when they're paid. The USA swimming registration fees, it's a similar thing. I know that we did have a couple of times where swimmers were registered late and there were some penalties that were incurred. And I believe that coaches USA swimming registration is also included in this number. That's something that we pay per his contract. It's not something that we're gonna get the money back for.
If we
So
could-
I have to fess up to an error here that I didn't catch. We're on that budget review notes, you see line 27, that's actually line 29.
Yeah.
So that might answer, most of that is collected in September. On the swim USA, I was sitting there trying to figure out why, I knew the answer was in here, but sorry.
Well, it's still that, and thank you for the explanation. So I guess the follow-on question to that would be, do we reconcile to ensure that we aren't costing the district anything?
What I implemented for USA swim registration fees in particular is that I do not send it to PNS until we have collected payment from the family. Now, I think the two that they were late registrations prior to a meet, I don't believe that we have billed those families that penalty. But other than that, their primary registration, I never send it to PNS until they have paid it.
So are we saying, I just want to make sure I understand, are we saying that we're not going to recover that money?
It's 2 penalty fees, I believe, and that's not a conversation I've had with Steve yet.
But we'll come back with an answer for you on that.
Okay, no, and that's great. I think it's that, I think we either need to make them not reconcilable, as it were, not always matching and understanding that,
Yep.
or we need to stop calling them pass-throughs. Just because there's this impression in your head about what that means, and that might not be accurate. So whatever we feel the right answer is, that would be great.
All right, we will have an answer for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any further questions on page 1? Page 2? Commissioner Ford?
So facility reserve, I had a question. We talk about how we're going to pay back this reserve, but isn't that really just shuffling money around? The money we're getting this year from the levy and from the program is basically budgeted and expected to be spent this year. So even if we get this big $250,000 levy in May, which we will, we or whatever it is.
We hope.
Yeah. So, and we take 60,000 of that, put it in reserves. Now we've got less of that to work with. But so eventually it's going to drain down. That you're going to go back to start sucking your money back out of the reserves near the last 2 months before we get the next big levy thing. So it's really it really isn't. I mean, we're kind of fooling ourselves or deluding ourselves, I think.
Okay. Is there a question or?
That's just no, it's just a statement. I don't think we're really going to be able to take that. I mean, you can, it's just basically, but you're just playing games with that money.
You're saying it looks like a shell game.
Yeah.
Okay, so what our intent is to fulfill what I said we would do and backfill in the reserve. But as you said, we may reach a point where we have to go back into the reserve again. However, what we're really trying to do, and Joanne and I are working really close on this, Julie and Erica are doing it through their programmatic expense controls, but we're really trying to work on, okay, where are things at, and how are we able to project better and it's going to take more than
Right.
6 months to
We've
get
got about
there.
$62,000 working capital in
Yes.
different funds right now.
Right.
So we're going to get this big $250,000, which makes, boy, it sounds like we're really doing good. But it's really going to be spent over the next 6 months, so we're going to be back down to 62 or less.
There's potential. Our job is to make it not go that way, but there's
Okay.
always a potential that
Yes.
anything can go wrong in here, and you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just address that?
Please.
Okay. So while that may be the current state, and please correct me if I'm saying something incorrect here, but while that may be the current state, it isn't how we optimally operate. Because again, our charge is to maintain this facility, and the only way we can do that is to stop living out of our checking account, right? And in order to do that, so we're trying to do that, and hopeful that if all the things work the way that everyone here is intending them to, that we will not have to do that. And
But I've already pointed out what we've kind of underestimated, maybe by $22,000, the levy amount we're going to get.
and
So,
right,
and
understood.
you're pointing out some other things, so we've got some work to do.
Absolutely, and that I think is the point, and I'm glad to hear you say that as well, because I felt like maybe you were kind of saying, what's the point? And
No,
and I
it's
don't,
not what
I
the
don't-
point is. I mean,
Okay.
I just don't think we should be deluding ourselves. We got work to do on this budget.
Absolutely.
I think
You're saying, you're questioning the.
I'm saying we're not going to come to a conclusion tonight. I think
Right.
mid-year review and
Right.
beyond, we're going to start saying, uh-oh.
Well, and if I hear you right on the other thing, you're saying, you're wondering about I'm trying to come up with the right word, because I'm going to call myself something here, and I'm trying to make sure I don't call myself something too bad.
I'm just trying to figure out.
The sense in putting stuff back in that you may have to pull back out.
Right,
again.
yeah, and I'm just trying to point out the biggest glaring, what I think are errors in the estimated. Every year we put out a budget, and then when we come to the end of the year, we have to say, oops, we overspent $40,000 to $50,000.
But that's only been like the last couple of years. And
3 years.
It's been because there were some serious mistakes or errors made, but also things that we had no way of knowing were going to happen toward the end of the year, the increase in insurance and things breaking that needed to be replaced. So
But that
You know,
happens, and so we should.
it does.
And you should really, when you do a budget, you should have like a 10% buffer.
Yeah, and that's why we're,
And then if you don't spend it, then you can put that in reserve.
or in a capital fund.
Yeah,
to like
whatever.
build a
The thing
slide.
is, if I may real quick, that's what we're all working on.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
that's why we're all
But
here.
over the last 3 years, we've really budgeted real tight.
But again-
So tight that we couldn't possibly.
Again,
make it
that's
work.
why we're all here, to sit there and try and keep
Okay.
track of this. That's why we're following with the quarterly reviews.
Yes.
To sit there and try and stay online, so
Yes.
we're all better
Okay,
informed.
I know,
than
yeah,
before.
that's why I just want to point those out, because I think in July, we'll have a different look at this.
Okay, do you have questions on the
Yes,
second
a
page?
couple. Yeah, so, second page here, if we go to line 48, scuba. You know, first of all, I think that's a service to the community that we do there. I think that's a very good thing. $2,000 of income when, at a point in time where the pool would otherwise be quiet and empty. I think that's a very good thing. I think we shouldn't be greedy and stuff like that, it's my opinion. So if we come on down to line 54, the high school, you know, again, I think that's a very good thing, service to the community there that we do. Very respected by members of the community. I think it might be a large part why our levies have passed. $5,000 of income at a point in the day where the pool would most likely be pretty quiet and relatively empty. I think that's a very good thing. So that's what I have on those two matters, and I guess anybody that's read through their stuff or has heard from school board members being upset, maybe they would know where I'm going with that. Line 70 is where I'm going to go next. I think it is. I think Richard already addressed that there. Line 73. Is it 73 there? 72. Line 72 here.
There's nothing on line 70.
Salary and wages. Just the way I see budgets working, if any salaried employees were to leave here, I would hope that they were replaced with hourly employees. I think that kind of helps out with budgets myself.
Actually, salaries are easier to manage than hourly, because I know what I'm gonna pay. An hourly
Yeah.
salary it's fixed. An hourly depend on, you know.
And I guess
whatever.
if they were done in a manner to where they're 40 hours a week, and I trust that you would do
Well, I
that.
will consider all options, but I'm
Yes.
gonna make the decision that I think is
Absolutely,
best for us.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yep,
Trust me, I'm gonna be looking at what I can do on that.
I trust that you will. That's all I have on the second page.
I have a
I have
couple
a
of
question.
corrections.
Line 73. How long, sorry, there's two things.
Go ahead, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Sorry.
Commissioner Arnold.
How long do we have to pay for unemployment? Is it, do we have to pay for freaking ever?
Pretty much, and we're paying for someone who was only worked here during part of the time.
Are we-
And we didn't even let him go. He quit,
Yeah.
went somewhere else, got let go, but because it was during a period of time, we ended up having to pay.
But are we still paying for the two people, or is this just for one? This is for the two people?
For two, right?
Can I ask one thing on that too? Is there an unemployment insurance we should have been paying to prevent that from having happened, or is that just how it works?
That's just how it works.
Yeah?
Ye-
The reason we're called a reimbursable
Yes,
employer is because we don't pay
yeah.
unemployment.
And now, is there an option to where we could though?
I'm sure there is. I have no idea why we are set up that way.
It just seems like our turnover is getting up and up and up there. And I know
Well-
where I work, because our turnover is very low, we don't pay into the unemployment insurance. But when I had to farm, you better believe I paid the unemployment insurance. 'Cause I
Well,
went through people pretty quick.
So far, since I took over, we've had numerous people who've applied for unemployment after they were
Yes.
let
And you're
go.
usually able to say,
And yes, I have fought those and I have not received a bill for
good,
any of those
good.
employees. The two that we are paying are
Yes.
the two that was before this.
Ah.
And even if you were here and had to could have handled it right. It might be the person above you maybe didn't handle words and stuff
I
right.
have no
so.
idea
Yeah.
what they did, but I know what I did.
Can you look into the possibility of paying into unemployment insurance and what that could save us?
We can look and see what it costs.
Okay, thank you.
Richard?
Okay, so Scuba, he said it's a community service. It's not a community service, it's a private, for-profit company. And it should be, we should not be subsidizing a
We
private.
don't subsidize. They pay-
Okay, but
they
he
pay
was
us.
trying to say that we should not, I mean, we should keep the rate. I think we should eventually raise the rate because incrementally, we haven't been doing that yearly, just like we haven't been incrementally increasing a lot of rates, which is the reason we have to suddenly increase rates so much this time around. So anyway, so Scuba I don't think is a community service. I think it's a for-profit.
Well, if we look at daily attendance.
So, one person at a time.
Okay.
Continue.
So that's Scuba. And then the high school, we haven't increased incrementally over the years. Fidalgo charges $17,000 to their schools. So, you know, I don't know if we can charge that much, but I think we should be charging the high school more too.
And I've actually, it'll either be next week or the week after, I meet with Lance Given, and we are in negotiations for what this cost is
Yeah,
going
I
to be.
saw that, thank you.
And so, yeah,
And again, that's the reason
it'll go up.
it's going up so much is because we haven't incrementally increased it every year. Salaries go up every year, our other costs go up every year, but we haven't been incrementally increasing other costs every year. And so now suddenly we have to make catch up.
Well, the other thing to the school board's advantage is they have the levy that
Yeah.
fully funds their.
Yes,
athletic
exactly. And their
programs.
levy passed a lot
They're
easier
no
than ours
longer
does.
using impact aid to get
Mhm.
it. So anyway, it's a discussion that he and I he weighed into it.
I know. yeah.
And so he and I are meeting,
But without a pool, so he needs to understand without a pool, he doesn't have a team. So he needs to sort of help us out too.
right, and we are, and he's already come back with a counter, which is probably not acceptable, but it's close, and so
Mhm.
we're gonna meet and
Okay,
sort
thank
it
you.
out. Yeah.
Commissioner Shields, do you have anything?
No, okay.
Okay, let's move on to page 3.
Oh, sorry, I had one other.
Oh, did you?
That I forgot because we got distracted. The surplus sales, number 45,
Yeah.
is the advertising expensed
Oh, yeah.
for that? Because we paid a lot in advertising last year. Did you look at that and think about how much it's gonna cost us to,
We paid like $600 last year. One of them was 600.
I just wanna make sure that you, make sure that we
Right.
think about what it's gonna cost to advertise so that we
Yes,
don't.
yes, we're watching.
Okay,
To what our real profit will be.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, last year was a huge, and Erica told me this, last year was a huge learning process on how to do it. So
was.
now there's actually a how-to-do list for doing
Oh,
it.
good.
So it should streamline not only the process, but the cost as well.
Okay. Any other questions with 2? Okay, page 3.
Line number 98, on your thing, you said, if an employee does not cash a check and is refunded, less a $20 charge per check. We have one guard that has lost 2 checks. My question is, does that cover, the $20, does that cover our cost to replace it? How much do we lose on each check that we have to redo?
You want to, I think I know, but you're the expert on
If we have to, pay them again, then we will have to go to the county, so there really is no expense.
But if you pay it, when it gets the check reissued, it's less the charge. Yeah,
Yes,
so-
so this is that, this is that amount.
Yeah. So it's less the charge that that Paychex charges us, we take that out of the check whenever we recut the check for them.
Okay, so it actually is a plus to us if they lose their checks.
I
And,
don't think it's a plus, but we're not paying the $25 fee.
okay,
That gets passed on to the employee for losing their check.
okay. I just want to make sure it's not costing us.
Are some of our things direct deposit or?
Some people do, not all do.
Yeah, that's what I
They
figured.
all have the option.
Yeah, I thought they did, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have anything on this, Richard?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Shingleton?
I do not.
Trying to find
No.
out.
No, thank you.
I'm just trying to find out where it is.
Page 4.
Where's the insurance? Is it in this one?
I think it was the next one.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing on page 4?
Where's the insurance? I'm just trying to figure out where the insurance, because I want to talk on that, and I want to make sure I got that. So I can't remember where it is in
It
relation
should
to
be
all
under
the...
professional services, right? On the other, next page.
Okay.
Which insurance, like health insurance?
Yeah, he's talking about CID.
The $80,000.
Yeah, it's
or what-
number 195.
I got one thing on 130
Okay,
on page 4.
okay. Back up to page 4.
Okay. Sorry. 130 medical, that's a big number there for just, that's the medical insurance, correct? That's for 2 employees? I
And a spouse,
I
right?
think that's somewhere we could really, I mean, we're nickel and diming some of these things over $1,000, and it seems like something big that could be done in the future as contracts expire, et cetera. So that's something I would like to see us watch very closely over the coming months and years.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have there.
Any other thing on page 4 before we move to page 5? Page 5.
So, yeah, so I want to speak on the premium, or the insurance. So you've got the insurance, let's see here, where did I look at? It was $81,230 last year. You got it budgeted for 65 this year. Why would it have gone down?
Because the 81,000 was the increase of 30,000 over what we expected from when we were with
Endurance.
Endurus to move to CIAW when Endurus.
That's like a one-time jump
Yeah, it
thing?
was a one-time jump.
Oh.
What was the prorated amount?
It was a
wasn't
prorated
It was
amount
prorated.
for 3 months that we wouldn't have been covered under the insurance. So when we ended the insurance contract in September with Endurus, we had to cover October, November, and December with CIAW instead of starting in January, because CIAW's, they run from January to January, whereas Endurus had run from October to October. So adding those 3 months is what we had to pay that extra, and that's why that big charge is there.
Gotcha.
Now we're on the January to January.
Okay, good. Thanks. So 65,000 is pretty accurate. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on page 5?
Yes, so I looked down here at 188 on the advertising, or 6.47% or whatever there. So you mentioned a revised budget coming forward in June, I think it was, right? We'll go back up here to 167, web hosting, only 45.98. And I think a lot of us have looked at, the Polls website, and I think it's a WordPress or whatever it is, and most of us recognize that by today's standards, it's pretty unworkable and very ineffective. Is that somewhere where we could maybe see some money moved from 188 to 167 and our website bettered?
It wouldn't go there, but, and then probably not this year.
Okay.
But trust me, I'm with you on the website. The
Totally.
website is inadequate at
Yes.
best.
Yes.
And,
Almost a hindrance, because you look at it and you're like, what in the world?
yeah, it functions, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, if you know how to manipulate through it, eventually you can figure it
Yeah.
out, and it works pretty good,
Yeah,
actually.
and that's the issue, though.
But that's
is
right.
learning how to manipulate
It's
your way
not
through.
intuitive.
Exactly, and so we're looking at options for, there's one patron who thinks that she can do it for free, and she does this professionally.
Wow.
But I'm, we'll see if that pans out.
I think that might be what got us here, though, in the first place.
It might be, but you could be right.
I think I remember that about 4 years ago.
You might be right. I don't know.
Okay, is there any other questions on page 5?
That's all I have.
Okay. Page 6. Anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'll take a shot. 221 porta potty, $1,100 a year. I know when the Babe Ruth guy was in here, he'd mentioned wanting to know if they could have an outhouse down there for at least their season or however long that lasted. Porta potty, $1,100 a year. Is that for one porta potty or is that for two?
That's for the one that's up by the That
Who
you-
owns the yellow one by the road? Who's renting the yellow one out here by the road?
Right here, I don't know who that's the city.
It's the
Okay.
city that-
I had heard the pool did several times over the years, that's why I was asking.
Well,
No, this one here is emptied by the city.
The one
Yeah,
right,
so,
the one right
yeah.
there
Right
now?
here.
Okay.
if we own it, they're paying for it, so.
There you go.
I'll take it.
Okay then, okay. As long as we're not paying for it. So $1,100 is for one porta potty?
That's one.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to say this is great. Thank you. I mean, it's a step,
Yeah,
it's
thanks.
definitely a step forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and everyone who worked on it.
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah.
All of them? I just took notes.
All used. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say the same thing. It was very good, and thanks a lot for the presentation, for all the way you worded everything. It was very easy for me to even follow.
Well, I was going for the lowest common denominator, so.
You're safe with me.
No, that was me. If I couldn't understand and talk to it, then I knew no one else would, so.
Okay, is there any other questions,
Yeah.
comments that anybody has before we close?
Yeah, I have the same thought. Thank you very much. I think it's a good thing that we're doing this quarterly. I know none of us are never gonna agree on anything, but that's probably a good thing in some ways.
You
But
just all agreed on one thing.
I think it's very imperative that we all know what's going on though, especially with money. So I think something else we all agree on, I suppose. And then I probably got something to make everybody's night tomorrow. I had to sit back. I had to sit back and think about why I was doing this. And the reason I decided to get on the board was to help the children of the district. So I also coach Little League. So because of that, there's been some stuff that came up, and I have a scheduling conflict tomorrow. So I've asked the chair if I could have tomorrow as an excuse absence. And I know the bylaw stuff is coming up. I guess if there's not the votes to get where it needs to be, we'll address it as soon as possible. So that's all I have. So I wish you all the best of luck tomorrow.
Right, good luck with your game.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Richard. And all in favor, somebody saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks very much. Meeting's adjourned at
At what time? Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
7:30 p.m.
AM or PM?
That was a long